Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
Call the meeting to order. And the first thing, if you would all please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance, I appreciate it. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First of all, I'll make an announcement and then I'll go on with the regular agenda. Our town attorneys felt that the notice needed to be clearer in terms of amending or proposing to amend the code. And there was a public hearing scheduled for tonight. So in reference to the commercial sand, gravel, topsoil extraction to rural residential and heavy industrial zones, and more specifically, they want to put out a notice that it makes clear that part of what's being proposed is that the 1,000-foot buffer, which still stays a 1,000-foot buffer, but who has jurisdiction over it? Is the ZBA or the planning board? What's being proposed is that the planning board would have jurisdiction over that 1,000-foot buffer. It is, I see some emails and such that it's a guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. It might be likely. The zoning board could change it. The planning board could change it. The zoning board can keep it the same. The planning board can keep it the same. It's not guaranteed. It's a standard. And what we're proposing is that when the planning board reviews everything, that it might behoove us, and it might be in their best interest to give them the power to change or not change based on what they're hearing from the public, based on what they're hearing from the applicant, based on their sense of community planning and so forth. In any event, we're going to renotice this, and we have a resolution before us that I'll get to shortly that is going to set the public hearing for August 20th here in this building at 7 p.m. Okay? Now, next item is a Board of Health item. It's a quick one. We just need to set a public hearing, and I'll explain all that in a minute. But first of all, is there a motion to move into the Queensbury Board of Health?
I'll introduce.
Okay, moved by Councilman Medevere, seconded by Councilman Ferrone. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. We're now into the Board of Health. And the one and only resolution before us, please, Rose.
So resolution setting a public hearing on sewage disposal variance application of Robert and Robin Myers.
Okay. So this is to set a public hearing on the sewage disposal variance application of Robert and Robin Meyer for Monday, August 20th. All right, the Robert and Robin Myers live at 5 Gilmore Avenue, and they are going to replace their absorption bed, and they would like to put it 10 feet from their foundation in lieu of the required 20-foot setback. So, is there a motion to set that public hearing?
I'll move it.
Moved by Councilman Medevere, seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. Roll call vote on this, please.
Councilperson Atherton.
Yes.
Barone.
Yes.
Switzer.
Yes.
Stroud.
Yeah.
And Medevere.
Yes.
All right, resolution passes. We are going to have this public hearing on Monday, August 20th. That's it for the Board of Health. Is there a motion to move out of the Board of Health?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Ferrone, seconded by
I'll second.
Councilman Medevere. All those in favor of moving out of the Queensbury Board of Health, say aye.
Aye.
Motion's unanimous. We're now out of the Board of Health. All right, the first item, why don't we go to that resolution 2.1 that is rescheduling the public hearing. So, Rose, I mean.
Resolution authorizing rescheduling of public hearing on proposed local law of 2018 to amend Queensbury Town Code and Town Zoning Map.
Okay, so we're rescheduling this. I kind of explained it. And again, this is basically an item that we already passed, and it made it into the schedules. It didn't make it into the text for whatever reason. This is to provide basically what was already approved by the town board to clarify that it should be in the text as well. Is that a fair characterization?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Bob. Okay, so this resolution is rescheduling the public hearing to August 20th. Is there a motion to move this forward?
I'll move.
Moved by Councilman Medevere,
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. Roll call vote on rescheduling the public hearing?
Councilperson Switzer.
Yes.
Stroud.
Yes.
Medevere.
Yes.
Atherton.
Yes.
Barone.
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay. Now, we have 17 resolutions before us tonight. I'm going to briefly describe each one. I'm going to give the public an opportunity to speak to any of the resolutions before us tonight. And if you have another topic that's not related to the resolutions and you would like to talk to this town board about that topic, you'll have that opportunity at the end of the meeting, okay? So, resolution 4.1.
It's a resolution authorizing Glens Falls Elks Lodge number 81 to conduct race for cerebral palsy 5K.
All right. Glens Falls Elks Lodge 81 wants to do a 5K race, and it'll be for a good cause to earn money for cerebral palsy. And this race will start at 9 a.m. And to get approved, because they use town roads such as Cronin, Meadowbrook, and Everett's, they've shown that they have the necessary insurance and they've got the highway superintendent's approval. Now they need a town board approval for this to happen, and that's before us tonight. Resolution 4.2.
Resolution authorizing engagement of Chief Pete's Lawn Care to mow certain abandoned or neglected properties in the town of Queensbury.
Okay, 72 Linden Road is in need of some care. So what happens is we'll clean up this piece of property, and then we'll assess their property, constituting a lien and a charge on the real property, which it is levied until paid or otherwise satisfied or discharged. Okay, so the landowner will pay for this. So this is a contract with Chief Pete's to clean up 72 Linden Road, if it's not done beforehand. $75 a month. Such work is proposed to commence on or about August 7th for a 2-month period for a total amount not exceeding $150. And the Director of Building and Codes recommends the town board engage these mowing services for this property. Resolution 4.3.
Resolution authorizing separation of Timmins Lane into Timmins Lane and Timmins Court.
All right, with some new parcels along Timmins Lane came a numbering issue. Now people want to keep their same numbers. They don't want to change the numbers. So one of the solutions is to take a segment of this and call it Timmins Court. It goes like this, and then down into a cul-de-sac. So this leg will be Timmins Court, and the rest will remain Timmins Lane. Everyone can keep their same numbers and addresses, and this solves that problem. Right, Dave?
Correct.
Okay. 3.4.
Resolution authorizing
4.4.
Resolution authorizing promotion of John DeVoe from motor equipment operator to heavy equipment operator in the town highway department.
All right, John DeVoe, current MEO or motor equipment operator within the department, is requested to be promoted to the position, and the highway superintendent recommends that the town board authorizes the promotion of Mr. DeVoe from MEO to HEO. And Mr. DeVoe has met the qualifications and the required job experience for the position. Resolution 4.5.
It's a resolution authorizing town receiver of taxes and assessments to issue one-time informational notice concerning partial payments of school tax collection to property owners within the Queensbury Union Free and Lake George Central School Districts.
All right, so partial payment of real property taxes, the New York State Legislature has adopted legislation of providing for any collecting officer of a municipality to accept partial payments of real property taxes, so long as a municipality adopts a resolution allowing for such partial payments, as well as setting forth the parameters in which partial payments will be accepted, including imposition of a surcharge with each partial payment. And whereas the town of Queensbury's receiver of taxes and assessments previously recommended that the Queensbury Town Board authorize such partial payments of real property taxes for the 2018 town and county tax collection with certain parameters, and accordingly, by Resolution 283 of 2017, the town board authorized its receiver of taxes and assessments to accept such partial payments of real property taxes, special ad valorem levies, and special assessments for town and county tax collection under certain parameters and authorized and directed by the receiver. Whereas the receiver has advised the town board, and the receiver is the receiver of taxes and assessments, that the Union Free School District and Lake George Central Schools have authorized partial payments of taxes for school district purposes commencing for the 2018-2019 tax collection, and therefore the receiver has recommended that the town board authorize the mailing of one-time informational notice concerning such collection of partial payments in all mailed tax bills within those school districts. And so this is a resolve that the town board authorizes and directs the receiver of taxes and assessments to prepare and mail a one-time informational notice concerning the Queensbury Union Free and Lake George Central Schools authorization of partial payments of taxes for school district purposes commencing for the 2018-29 tax collection and all mailed tax bills within those school districts, and forward copied of this resolution. So this resolution will go to the Commissioner of New York State Department of Taxes and Finance, the Warren County Treasurer's Office, Queensbury Union Free School District, and the Lake George Central School District. Resolution 4.6.
Resolution authorizing engagement of, number one, General Code for Document Management Solutions Scanned Image Processing Services, and two, NICID Image Data for Road Record Scanning Services.
Okay, so the town clerk has requested that the town board again engage the services of the General Code and NICID Image Data, and in a form set forth in General Code's June 28, 2018 Proposal for Document Management Solution Scanned Image Processing Service in the amount of $1,881.80, and NICID Image Data's July 20th, 2018 proposal for record scanning services is specifically set forth in option 2, grayscale, for the amount of $9,486.10 for a total project cost not to exceed $11,367.90. And attached to it is the contract. And the images or the kinds of things, the documents they will scan so that they will be in electronic format. We're trying to do this as much as possible. And as we come to chunks of what needs to be translated from paper documents into digital form is what we're trying to do. Someday we'll be all digital. Paper documents will basically be very limited in use. And it's a great way of retaining things. So a lot of these documents are things that are, over under the, down here in the basement, and this will get it into a electronic format so it's easier for people to use and easier for people to foil and so forth. Okay, resolution 4.7.
Resolution authorizing replacement, superseding of statement of work agreement with general code regarding connection of Energov and Laserfish content management systems.
All right, this is to authorize the engagement of the services of general code to develop and implement an integration to connect the town's Energov system with its selected content management system, Laserfish content management system, as set forth in general code's statement of work agreement dated November 2nd, 2015, for amount not to exceed $23,530. All right. However, there have been certain changes to the software capabilities, a change to the project, and so this is a revised statement or working agreement, and it's less expensive. So it's $2,830 less than the 2015 proposal. So it will be an amount not to exceed $20,700. Now, $11,765 of this has already been billed for this change of agreement, which is cheaper than the original 2015 agreement, to integrate and connect the town's software systems. The remaining amount will be $8,935 to be billed when the job is done. Resolution 4.8.
So resolution authorizing engagement of Municity Software Consulting Associates regarding implementation of software related to DPW asset management.
Okay. Under the leadership of the new superintendent, David Duell, who's here tonight, should you have any questions? David wants to bring the town's highway department to the next level. In other words, we should have GPS and allocations of our culvert systems and other assets that the town highway has. And this new system will not only be able to locate these culverts and other things that are going to be accounted for, it will also have a management program, when they last were maintained or when they need to be maintained and so forth. And some need to be maintained, every 3 years, and others maybe every 5 years, or inspected every year and so forth. This will help the highway department manage the system. And I don't know, will we have like 1,000 culverts, for example? Just as an example. So this is a municipal program that's going to help to do that for an amount not to exceed $18,920. Now, training is included in this, and you'll see on the investment page that Councilwoman Switzer had requested that the first item, you minister to be with the DPW and the asset management program. That will be done now. Now, the number 2, the municipal mobile, will be done later, as soon as we get the iPads for that and get them addressed. And the last item, Municity Connect, possibly later. And that's to create a portal. Now, all the training, unlimited, is included in The only thing that I'm suggesting as a change or amending of this resolution, and I spoke to the board earlier about this, is on page 2 of the resolution, it says for an amount not exceeding $18,920 to include unlimited training that ensures the town highway department is comfortable using the software to be made from IT software account number and such, with ongoing annual maintenance, support, hosting costs. Now, in the resolution is after the initial year not to exceed $3,500 to be paid from appropriate account. Now, I'm going to guess that $3,520 maintenance, support, and hosting cost may change, but the way that's worded, it's not allowed to change at all, even if there's an inflationary index in it. So we could do one of a couple things. One, I'm going to suggest we take out the words after the initial year not to exceed $3,520 to be paid, so that the sentence reads, with ongoing annual maintenance, support, and hosting costs from the appropriate account. And then if the hosting support costs are excessive, then we can always drop the program or go to another program. But the way it's saying is it's prohibiting any increase of that in future years. So, so Jennifer, I don't know if you have another thought on that, or if that's okay.
No, that's okay, as long as it's, I think that'll be taken care of by council's review of any agreement. So as long as they don't come back, as long as we have the opportunity to say yes or no. That's all I'm really looking for.
So
we could add at the end of the proposed language that Jennifer had that's here, we could add without further town board approval. And that would if we know what the number is in the future, it can't increase without the board approving it.
Yeah, that's basically.
I mean, that's your concern. You don't be locked in forever. They're not going to agree to be locked in forever.
Right.
But we don't want it to be, tripled next year.
Right.
All right.
So, I mean, I think we can put that after next year not to exceed that amount, which is what it is in the first year, without further town board approval. And that, I think, answers
acceptable?
both of your concerns.
Yep.
I'm going to add it after the number, without further town board approval.
Is that acceptable to the board? Anything else on that one, Jennifer? Since, okay. Resolution 4.9.
Resolution authorizing engagement of the Chazen companies to provide professional engineering services concerning salt barn modification and improvements.
Okay, so Chuck Rice, our superintendent of building and grounds, went out and got 8 proposals. We've got some older salt storage barns, and the roof section is getting all that, salt, once it gets to metal, even if it's galvanized, raises heck with it. And what's happened with the salt barns is the metal roofing is curved like this around the edges. It's rotting away and it's become unsafe. So what Chuck would like to do is raise the concrete walls so that they're higher and less likely to be affected by salt, and the new roofing. And we're open to materials. It could be, a textile material. It could be metal. But we want to get some proposals on what they think we should do with the salt barns. And we got 8 proposals, and the cheapest came in from Chazen at $12,050. The other proposals, 33.8, 69, 28.4, 14.8, 52.2, and then Chazen's $12,050. So they were the low bidder, and this is a resolution to award them the bid to seek salt barn modifications and improvements. Resolution 410.
It's a resolution authorizing adoption of uniform guidance for federal awards relating to the town's purchasing policy.
Okay, the town board wishes to adopt the uniform guidance for federal awards, which relates to the town's purchasing policies to comply with federal requirements. And we would like to do so as part of this resolution. And attached to the resolution is the uniform guidance for federal awards. And it tells you about the do's and don'ts of purchasing. So, Resolution 411.
Resolution authorizing advertisement of bids for sale and/or disposal of obsolete equipment.
Okay, so we have a 2009 Ford Ranger pickup, a couple of computers, and that's it. Resolution 412.
Resolution authorizing assignment of real estate contract from Glenn Bruning to Town of Queensbury.
Okay, Glenn is here, and some of the other people who have been instrumental in helping us to get where we are. I think it's a great place. Residents came to me, about a year ago, Glenn, and had a thought and wondered if it was a good thought. And the thought was that the residents would like to purchase the 3 Freiberger properties in the Rush Pond area. And they would like to raise some money to do that. And, they'd do as much as they could. And would the town, try and put in the rest of it to purchase the property. And he negotiated a purchase price for the 78 acres, $150,000. Glenn and others also negotiated with the OSI, or the Open Space Institute, to donate $50,000. And last I knew, the neighbors themselves had collected $16,000 more. That's good. So, so we got better than $16,000 coming in cash. We got $50,000 coming from OSI, and the town board has conceptually agreed to put in the remainder to buy these 78 acres in the Rush Pond area. Which will be great because we'll be able to put another leg to the Rush Pond Trail system, another little parking area there. And it just works great in the whole scheme of things of interconnecting places in the town in a format that would be safe for children and other residents to use, and healthy for them to use too. I mean, the biking and the hiking, and that's a good thing. And plus, just being out there, and people love the Rush Pond Trail. So, Mr. Bruning made all those arrangements with the Freibergers. So this is a resolution authorizing assignment of the real estate contract from Glenn Bruning to the town of Queensbury, so we can go to the next step with this agreement. Okay, and I did produce a map. Are all town board members aware of the, I know you are. Probably more than you want to be.
That was great.
Now, one of the OSI agreements was that we had to walk the property and scan it for anything unnatural, anything that's disrupting its prisineness, if that's a word. If it's not, we just made it, wasn't it? So we did notice some tires and such, and campfires and things like that, and we put together a report and we noted that, and it spent a good whole afternoon hauling all the way around 78 acres. So Catherine went with me on that experience. Anyways, that resolution is just to assign the real estate contract from Glenn to the town. But I had to tell you a little bit of story. Resolution 413.
It's a resolution authorizing acceptance of Brownfield Opportunity Areas Program Nomination Study grant funds from New York State Department of State and establishing appropriations and estimated revenues for such funds.
Okay. This is a grant for $100,000. We have to put in 10% in kind, or 10% can be cash or in-kind services for $11,111. So on January 23rd, the town board passed resolution 27 in 2017 authorizing the CFA application to the New York State Department of State for brownfield opportunity area funding. Now, we've gone through this once before. This is in the South Q Sibagagi area. And we identified in the first grant funding some of the things that would be useful for that part of town, such as, you know, developing the Sibagagi site rather than have it sit there. Sidewalks, maybe a visitor center. There were all kinds of ideas thrown about. All right, so that was the grant money just to investigate what could and could not be done. For example, BASF, we communicated with them, and communicating with them isn't the easiest thing in the world because you have to go through their layer system, and they're a German company, and then it has to go back through to us. And we wanted to know if they would find acceptable or allow a passive solar use on their property. One that you know, was non-intrusive on the property. It would be a ballast type solar, I mean, on top of the town, weighted down and so forth, but still provide some kind of usefulness to the property rather than sit there and not be useful. I mean, it is a perfect piece of property for solar in that it's got unobstructed southern exposure and it's 30 some odd acres. So you could put like 5 megawatts in there, and then maybe you could do a community service. These are things we need to look into. It may not be the best idea to put a solar system in there. I like the idea, but all right. So the next grant application is to try and bring some of these ideas to the next stage and look at whether they're really useful, if they're really something we want to do. So this resolution accepts the grant money, authorizes me to execute the grant agreement, commits the town to the 10% in-kind service match of $11,111, directs the budget officer to make the necessary budget changes, authorizes a temporary loan from the general fund of up to $100,000, which will get reimbursed, and adopts the MWBE-EO policy statements that are part of these grant processes, and appoints a senior planner as a minority business enterprise liaison and authorizes him to sign and require forms and certifications. Whew, that's a mouthful. All right. Resolution 414.
Resolution authorizing town clerk to submit Seton Property Holdings LLC's petition for change of zone application to the Queensberry Planning Board and requesting Planning Board to seek lead agency status.
Okay. There's this company, and they would like to locate off of Corinthville, and they would like to do a wood processing operation, an interior wood processing operation. And this is amending the zoning so that you could do such a thing on 5 acres and in the town. And this batch of paperwork, Seton Property Holdings LLC, the zoning change, sawmills, chipping mills, pallet mills, sawmills, chipping and pallet mills are allowed on lots of at least 100 acres in size. Okay, that's the formal word. However, a business which converts logs into dried firewood pellets and or mulch shall only require a lot of at least 5 acres in size, providing that, 1, the conversion operation occurs completely within an enclosed building, although the logs may be stored outdoors and the lot is not located within the Adirondack Park. Now, this resolution is sending this to the planning board so that they can get an on-hands review of this. This isn't accepting the zoning change. This is for the applicant to go to the planning board, and let's see what's involved with this. Let's see what the community says. This is also saying that the planning board is going to be allowed to be the lead agency, and they'll do the secret review. because they are the strongest organization in this case to review and evaluate the potential environmental impacts for both the proposed zoning change and the proposed project. So the resolve is that the Queensbury Town Board hereby authorizes and directs the town clerk to forward Seton Property Holding LLC's June 15, 2018 application with supplemental information dated July 27, 2018 to the Queensbury Planning Board for seeker review, report, and recommendation. And be it further resolved that the town board hereby consents to the planning board acting as the lead agency for any needed seeker review of this project.
I believe, John, that has to do with a company that already exists there. It's A1 Tree Services. And I think, if my memory serves me correctly, they also came in front of the planning board a couple of years ago with the operation to dry out the wood. So I think this is just an addition to turning that wood now into these pellets, and that required the zone change.
Right. Now, will it be noisy? Will it be an encumbrance to the local residences? Those are the kinds of things that the planning board will weigh, yeah. And then they'll give us a recommendation as to what they think after they've weighed all the information. Yeah. Okay, resolution 415.
So order setting a public hearing concerning proposed extension to Queensbury Consolidated Sanitary Sewer District to serve 894 State Route 9 property.
Now, here's a funny situation. We have the Route 9 Sewer District, okay, that goes all the way up to the Mohegan Hotel, includes the $1 Million Mile, includes the Great Escape. Includes everything going down to the intersection of Aviation Road and Quaker. And then leaves out a couple of little lots over near where Monterey Road, the southern terminus of Monterey Road, intersect with Route 9. There's a couple little houses there. They're not in the sewer district. All right. Well, we all know that someday somebody's going to buy those little houses and they're going to become a commercial enterprise. And Mr. Fed wants to do that. It's right next to Uno's Pizza, just south of Uno's Pizza, that lot in there. All right, he wants to put in a commercial enterprise. I think there's going to be a Subway shop and some other shops. He's going to have parking in there. He's going to need to bring Phil in there. So across the street is Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight wants to take out the fill. Well, I said to Mr. Fadden, I said, we got a nice arrangement here that you can take advantage of. And he did. So he's going to see the fill over here. All right, anyhow, I'm digressing. But he would like to be part of the Route 9 sewer. Now he's going to have to chip in the capital costs and he's going to have to do all the things. He's not getting a free ride on this. Okay. So this is setting a public hearing concerning the proposed extension of the Queensbury Consolidated Sewer District to serve 894 State Route 9 property, Mr. Fadden's Enterprise, or Fadden Enterprise. Okay? And that public hearing will be August 20th. Resolution 416.
So resolution authorizing engagement of U.S. Security Associates, Inc. for unarmed security services at Town Office Building.
Okay. Well, this is a resolution that is authorizing a contract with U.S. Security for a security officer or officers to kind of help us maintain security in that building over there, the office building. The assessment office and the clerk's office would like this additional security, to have a security person review and analyze. We're going to limit access, public access to that building. And so this is a contract with these services. Now, this resolution says that I and town council and the budget officer have to be satisfied with the contract because there are some aspects of the contract that need to go our way that town council identified, and they made a list, and we sent them the list of 9 items. So if you want this contract to be activated by us, you have to agree to those 9 items. They conceptually didn't see a problem with it, so they're going to run it by their attorneys. And so if they come back with a contract that's unacceptable, we won't accept it. But this is a resolution giving me, town council, and the budget officer, the 3 of us have to agree to any of the and all changes before it becomes real. It just gets things activated if it gets approved by the town board tonight. And resolution 417.
It's a resolution approving audit of bills, warrants of July 24th and August 7th, 2018.
Okay, and payment dates of July 24th and August 7th, 2018, totaling $49,238.15 and $1,400,983.97 respectively. Those are the 17 resolutions before the town board tonight. So I'll give the public an opportunity to share their thoughts, concerns with the town board on any of those 17 resolutions at this time. Are there any members of the public? Please raise your hand, be identified, and then you can come up.
Thank you, Supervisor Stroud. I'm Claudia Bramer, representing the Holdings, who are residents in the town of Queensbury, and they came this evening to provide comments at the public hearing regarding the zoning changes. And with your permission and without objection from the other town board members, we would like to provide public comment tonight rather than waiting till the privilege of the floor at the end of the meeting, if that is acceptable.
You may do so at the end of the meeting. I provide an opportunity where members of the public can speak to any town topic. So we're going to keep this conversation at this time related to the resolutions before us tonight.
This was a resolution for tonight.
It was,
as you've made, yeah.
And you will be allowed to speak to it, but at a different segment of the meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, pertaining to the resolutions before us tonight, anyone like to speak to them? Yes, sir.
Travis Whitehead. I'd like to talk to you about 414. This is that A1 wood processing thing right across from Hudson Headwaters there on Corinth Road. Sounds like it might be a reasonable idea when they say it's going to be all indoors contained. But what does that mean? I mean, that RWS in Kingsbury over by the airport is indoors too, and it's been nothing but troubles, and that's a lot more rural than out by Queensbury. Well, that's not your biggest problem. You don't have a noise ordinance. So if it becomes an issue, this is what's going to happen. I'll tell you a story. Last July, my neighbors decided to have all kinds of fireworks, very noisy for, quite a period of time. Got to 10 o'clock, the animals are going crazy, for hours and hours. Gets to 10 o'clock, it's still going. I'm saying enough's enough, so I called the sheriff. Sheriff comes out, says, well, first of all, the law says they can have Class A. This isn't Class A. It's like huge stuff. He says, well, all the stuff I've looked at, it doesn't say whether it's Class A, B, C, it doesn't say. And the supervisors, in their suggestion from the lawyer of the fireworks company, put in the language that Class A is allowed. He says, I don't know what's Class A. I don't know what's Class B. They should have probably said, if it doesn't say Class A on it, it's illegal. That's something the guy could have done with. But he said, Mr. Whitehead, that's not your biggest problem. Your biggest problem is I don't have a meter to tell you what the noise level is and whether there's a problem. But even if I did, he says, do you realize Queensbury has no noise ordinance? And therefore, I can't do a thing for you. Now, probably you're going to have the same conversations with all those residences right down there in the streets area. You know where it is. 5 acres, going from 100 acres to 5 acres, you're saying it's okay. and it might make noise. You have experience with RWS out by the airport, all kinds of problems out there. If you don't put in a noise ordinance first, you have no business looking at 414. That would be my suggestion. 4.9, I hope that the salt barn is being coordinated with this DPW garage location change that you guys have been talking about for a while. I'd hate to see you go off and do one thing and then just say we've got to move it because we're going to decide we're going to put the garage there, etc. Enough said about that. And on 416, the security officers, I mean, really? I mean, has there been any issue? And why do you need to go ahead and, make this look like a prison? I don't think that's, when you come in and you pay your taxes and stuff like that, I don't really think there's been any issues. Maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me what all the issues are and why we need to have this expense out there.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, John.
Anybody else like to speak to? Yes, sir.
Skip Stranahan, Upper Bay Road, French Mountain Environmental. We've run a site like what you're talking about. I'm not going to get into it. I don't have a schedule, so I guess if I grab one, it'd be better so you know what I was talking about. Talking about the yard at A1 and on the Corinth Road. I've run a business like that for about 40 years. Okay, it makes no difference if the building's inside or outside. You have 7 acres underneath timber. You have trucks running, log trucks running, and there's no way of getting a product inside except for trucking it. And there's no way of getting the product outside except for trucking it. So this facility requires more than 5 acres according to NCON. And I don't know if NCON rules would apply in Queensbury the same as they do at my facility on Bay Road, because I think I'm within the Adirondack Park. But there's just not you're not going to solve a problem. We've worked in New York City with our grinders. We've had them inside buildings. These are tin buildings. Sometimes the decimal readings are outside, like railwood shavings are like 90, 100. They're way over what they need to be. And when you don't have a noise ordinance, you are going to create a lot of noise with a project like this, regardless. Some of the trucks that, over the years, that have came into our yard had Detroit diesels in them, which are real noisy trucks. I think they're still making them today. They're still on the market. But this facility needs more than 5 acres because it needs 5 acres to put the stuff on. And I believe that the tree service is already using the 5 acres to put their timber on and the mulch on. So I think there's something here that should be looked into, because there shouldn't be a double standard in the industry. There should be one standard and one standard only. And as far as noise goes, I know that we've worked for years with our neighbors on noise pollution, because sometimes all you want to do is start a truck and load the wood back up you brought in the day before. And then somebody comes running out of their house next door and complains to you. So I think there's something that really needs to be looked in here is, with that small acreage, you have to have some kind of a stockpile or stockyard that you're working out of. And I think that's all under usage right now. That's my opinion. And if I can get 5 minutes, or no, I can't get no more minutes probably, but if I can ask you for a couple more minutes, I'd like to talk a little bit about the payment plans for these taxes. I think the major problem with these taxes is the 2015 assessments on my property are 100% over a paid assessor's evaluation. 100%. And I asked at the grievance meeting for a little bit of a change in that program. And I actually appeared at the meeting, went to the meeting, came back with my information and presented it. And they told me that I have to wait a year now to get my taxes to the level they belong at. And they are 100% over where they belong. So I don't think I should need to wait a year to get that done.
All right, thank you.
Okay, but my other thoughts on, basically, I have a lot of experience on the other projects you're talking about. And I think you need to be aware of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
George Winters, 4 John Clendon Road. 4.9. Do we need an engineer to look at a salt bin that's rotted out? I mean, you know, my garage rots out. I look at it and am I gonna raise it up and put another course of blocks on there? Or 2 courses? Why do we need an engineer to consider that? And that's what I have on that. And the security, 416. I personally don't believe that they need security at the town hall. How long we've been at town hall, and I know the world's getting crazier now than it was. I believe that, but I don't think we need security at the town hall. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to speak to any of the resolutions before the board tonight? All right, town board.
There's one more.
Yeah. What?
There's one more.
Okay, I'm sorry.
My name is Paulo Lacari. I live at 1333 Ridge Road. It is the property immediately south of the proposed new truck entrance to Route 9L for Cabricki Mining. And this is in regards to Resolution 273, changing the setback from 1,000 feet and labeling it as a buffer zone.
Paul?
Yes.
Not one of the resolutions before us.
It's not? Today is August 6, 2018, is it not?
Yeah, but we set that resolution for a August 20th public hearing. Now, you're still welcome to speak to it.
Okay.
I do have another portion of this meeting where it's open to any town topic.
All right.
And so that's the time when you and Ms. Bramer and whoever else wants to.
Okay. I apologize. I showed up late, so I missed the beginning of the meeting.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the town board on any of the resolutions before us right now? Okay. First of all, nobody on this town board said it was okay to put this pellet manufacturing on 5 acres. All right? We may or may not say okay. So that was incorrect. We're saying, okay, what we're doing is the applicant, the business owner, has asked us to consider this. We think it's more important that the planning board consider this. And those comments that you were just making, such as Travis and Skip just made, are excellent observations. And you should present those thoughts to the planning board. Now, the idea of a noise ordinance as being one of the issues involved here, we've looked at a noise ordinance. They're very difficult to impose. You need a decibel meter to be on site at the time the noise is being made. That decibel meter has to be calibrated in accordance to the law. The person using it has to be trained in accordance to the law and at the site at the time the noise is made. So many municipalities have shied away from noise ordinance, even though they may have them on the books. They don't abide by them because they're tough to hold up in court. What is more successful, and what I've suggested to this board, is a nuisance ordinance. Municipalities have had a lot more success in dealing with noise issues, as well as some other things, with what they call a nuisance ordinance. So I introduced that idea to this board that we consider going in that direction because it can answer the noise issues as well as some of the other issues. So, you know, the noise ordinance is not necessarily a good thing. A nuisance issue, I think, will accomplish the same thing in a much more enforceable way. Yes, of course, we're coordinating our barns with the new highway garage and everything else. Okay, then. Security, some of you don't seem to favor the security, but the people that reside and work in that office over there every day see the world a little differently, and they would like security, and it's not a great expense. I think the total expense is going to be somewhere in the range of 40,000, somewhere in there. And so, you know, I don't like the world that the world has become, in the sense that we have shooters shooting out of hotels in Las Vegas. We have nutcases going into high schools and shooting up our kids. I never saw that when I was a kid. I mean, it's here now. Everyone's a little bit nervous. Everyone's a little bit worried about it. You have the high schools now getting security officers. I can sympathize with you, but this is what our employees want. They want a little bit more security. Partial payments, Skip, I don't know about your assessment issues. This is to allow people to make partial payments on their school taxes, and this is basically a resolution saying that we're approving the receiver to go out and send notice to people that they can do partial payments on their school taxes. That's all this is.
I'm all about that. It's a good idea.
All right.
What I think is wrong is the assessments, the 2015 assessments.
That's a separate issue, Skip.
Big burden on senior citizens.
Yeah, I know, I understand, but that's a separate issue. So I think that answers most of what the residents came up and had thoughts about. If I missed something.
Yeah, the engineer for the salt barn.
Oh, the engineer for the salt barns. Well, what needs to be done is more than just blocks. They need to have what are poured concrete walls made higher. So that's going to require some kind of engineering program to design those so that they will be, you know, treated as one. In other words, rebarb, how much rebarb and so forth. What, you know, concrete, 6,000 pound concrete, what do we need? And then the comp. What are the comps available? We had a galvanized, you know, Quonset hut style thing, and that's not working because salt attacks that. Is there another material out there that would work better and last longer than that? So engineers were going to do the work for us, and Chuck Rice, our building and grounds superintendent, feels that these should be engineered to be safe. Then you go out to bid. You can't go out to bid on something unless you have the specs to how exactly it's going to be built. So you need an engineer. I mean, you know, it's too bad. Back in the old days, we just say do it and build it. And these days, you have to have things so it's biddable. All right. So anything else? Okay. So any thoughts on behalf of the board on any of the resolutions?
416, based upon the number of issues that town council had with the agreement, I'd like to see it pulled. I think they were so numerous and they were so, would have such an impact on the current agreement that we have now that it would substantially change the agreement that we have before us. And I understand that this allows you all to approve between the between yourself, the budget officer, and town council, that there are some, I have concerns about this specific agreement and not getting the agreement that we need after legal counsel's concerns.
Yeah, understood. Understood.
So I'm not saying.
No, and you mean pulled,
just
not pulled for roll call.
Not pulled for roll call, but pulled.
Yeah, all
we
right.
can address it in our
yeah,
August 20th meeting and get all of those concerns.
Okay, yeah.
And I feel more
I kind of was leaning there too.
Yep.
All right, so let's pull resolution 416, and that will not be in today's consideration. We will wait for the details to come in, and we feel better about that, and we'll perhaps put it on August 20th if it's ready and right. Anything else? All right. So is there a motion to approve resolutions 4.1 through 417, not including 416, which we're going to pull? All right, introduced by Councilman Medevere, seconded by Councilman Ferrone. Roll call vote on those 16 resolutions.
Councilperson Stroud.
Yes.
Medevere.
Yes.
Atherton.
Yes.
Ferrone.
Yes.
And Switzer.
Yes.
Okay, any correspondence?
Yes. I am in receipt of the supervisor's report for building and codes for the month of July, and it will be on file in the town clerk's office.
Okay. Now, privilege of the floor. Some of you wanted to come up and talk to us about other non-resolution items.
Okay, thank you again, Claudia Bramer, representing the holdings. And we were here to speak at the public hearing on the zoning changes, and we do appreciate that you passed the resolution to do the rehearing of the public hearing, the renotice of the public hearing, because the 2014 changes did not include any changes to the 1,000-foot separation distance. And so when you noticed the public hearing for tonight, all you said is that you were going to correct the problem that was already passed in 2014 but not included in the text. We're not objecting to that specific change because obviously it was already changed in 2014. What we do object to is the change in the 1,000-foot separation distance between mining activities and existing residences. And this is not simply a change in the jurisdiction of the board that looks at it. It is much more significant than that. You're putting into jeopardy a protection that has been there for the residences that are existing prior to mining activities, or like the gentleman who got up today, he's on Ridge Road. His property probably is near or adjoining to an existing mining activity. So if you take away the 1,000-foot separation, you're going to be impacting him. And it's not just Kubricki or the Fort Miller Company. You're making this across the board in all of the zones where mining is allowed. I want to just give you one quick example. This is similar to the separation distance for adult uses that are near schools. You have a prohibition that says adult uses cannot be within 1,000 feet of schools. There's no waiving that. That is a strict prohibition. That's what you have now for the mining, a strict prohibition, 1,000 feet separation. If you change the code the way that you have right now in the proposed amendments, you are doing away with that and you are allowing the planning board to maybe make it 1,000 feet, but make it less than that. And the DEC only requires 25 feet from the boundary line. So that's what you're putting into jeopardy, that someone would have mining activities 25 feet from their boundary line. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Janice Holding, 48 Dream Lake Road in Lake George, but it's the town of Queensbury. And we appreciate that you've postponed the public hearing until next time, but we also appreciate that you're allowing us to speak tonight. And we understand that the purpose is to add language that should have been added to the code when you changed the law in 2014. That change was to allow mining, sand, and gravel extraction to occur within the RR zone as long as the parcel was 25 acres or more. However, the language was never added to the code, and we understand that. But now in 2018, and after at least 5 workshops with the Fort Miller Company, they have convinced you, along with the code enforcement officer, that not only should sand and gravel extraction be added to the RR zone, but some of the language needs to be cleaned up. That language currently provides a 1,000-foot guaranteed separation between mining operations and existing homes. The suggested language for the law you are proposing would turn that guaranteed separation into a buffer, which could be altered or even waived by the planning board or the zoning board or whoever you're going to have manage that. Fort Miller has made it clear to you in your workshops with them that they intend to request a waiver of the buffer to reduce it to, and I quote, a couple of 100 feet. That is an 80% reduction in the protections currently provided in the town zoning code to the residents of Queensbury. At no time during the discussions in 2014 to add sand and gravel extraction to the RR zone was there any discussion regarding changing the separation to a waivable buffer. So representing this new law as just a correction of an omission is inaccurate. And if you truly believe, as you stated at the beginning of the meeting, that the separation was never guaranteed, then why do you need to clean up the language? Also, while you've had multiple workshops with Fort Miller totaling more than 2.5 hours of discussion time, you refused to allow the residents of Queensberry the courtesy of a workshop, even after a written request was submitted to the supervisor, so that we could explain our concerns with Fort Miller's application for the Dream Lake sand and gravel expansion. Instead, you limit us to a mere 3 minutes. That could not possibly be enough time to enumerate the concerns we have with the Fort Miller application. For example, which of these elevation drawings represents a hill that would protect the surrounding residences more than the other? Of course, this one does, when in fact they are identical hills. I've just changed the vertical scale on this one to make it look more protective. That's exactly what Fort Miller did on the drawings in Figure 5 in your packets. The vertical scale is different than the horizontal scale, but you may not have noticed that in the fine print. You also may not have noticed that the water table is almost miraculously 30 feet lower under the proposed reclamation grade than anywhere else. They actually have it go down under the proposed reclamation grade. But you're busy people. You have lots of situations to deal with. We heard that tonight. No one could expect you to review each application with the fine-tooth comb that is necessary to expose some of these inaccuracies and misleading information. That's why we request that you table the law and convince, or at least allow us, the opportunity to meet with you in a workshop to share our concerns. If you insist on proceeding with the approval of the law with the language that takes away a significant protection currently provided in the zoning code, all I can say is why? How could the town of Queensberry possibly be benefiting from the removal of this protection? How much additional tax revenue will we be getting from Fort Miller? How many new jobs will be created? How will the expansion of Dream Lake Sand and Gravel Mine, which will reduce the values of our homes, be in the best interest of the residents of Queensberry? We hope you will represent the interests of your constituents, table the proposed zoning code change, and allow us the opportunity to meet with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Ed Lockhart. I live at 50 Dream Lake Road Extension. And when I first moved in, I was next to a 3.5 acre pit. And this was still in the early 90s that the pit was 3.5 acres. And with no planning board meeting whatsoever, the expansion was made to 50 acres through the town. And I got stuck with a 25-foot buffer between me and the future of what my property line is going to be. But, you know, I guess it's too late for that because I wasn't afforded a public hearing. I wasn't afforded the things that people now could have to prevent things to their property that I'm going through. What disturbs me in the last couple of years is not that people don't know things about a sand pit. You don't just extract dirt. They have rights that they can have with a pit that every sand pit can have. That is the right to crush rocks, and that's very noisy. They have a right to wash the sand, and with the filtering and bouncing of with what goes through that, that's just as noisy as crushing rocks. And lately, DEC has given them the authority to mine the water. So we used to have the pleasure of having at least a 5-foot buffer between where they mine and our actual drinking water. The pit was mined all the way down to where our drinking water is. And then DEC allowed them to dig a pond out of our drinking water and to wash millions of tons of sediment and flush it back into that pond, which is our drinking water. I periodically run out of water now where I used to have 30 gallons a minute. And when you ask DEC a question, they are not in favor of the public. They will put you off. They will ask for records of 10 years. They are not behind the person. They are behind the pit. And to think that they would be the ones enforcing their actions, they're both on the same team, DEC. So, you know, I think that it's time that the public got to have a hearing on what a pit can do to your property values and affect your life, your water, your air, and the noise, because there is nothing noisier than a sand pit. And now the assessors say that, well, they don't really affect our property values, when in the past they did. And now they won't even look at the property values as having been affected this year. So I don't think the town is on the side of the people. I don't think that the DEC is. I think you want this pit to be a success for them, but I think that in the end, the people pay the price with their homes and the way they have to live. And the buffers are not enough that is given back in the 1950s when they made these laws for the pit. That they only have to have 25 acres or 25 feet between them and, you know, their pit. And it's certainly not enough for what they create for noise and the travesty of what they're doing to the drinking water now. I think that is being wholly overlooked. DEC used to protect the water. Now they have no care for it. Anyway, I have nothing more to say. I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Travis Whitehead. I would like to remind you, Supervisor Stroud, that they had security officers at that Las Vegas hotel. They also had security officers at Parkwood High School. The guy ran the other way. If you go ahead and do this, about the only thing you can guarantee is that you'll be putting more burden on the taxpayers to support yet another salary. I'm also disappointed that this board advanced 414 to the planning board without addressing the issue of noise ordinance or a nuisance law. It is up to this board to go ahead and come up with something like that. And basically all you've done by advancing 414 was to hand a loaded gun to the planning board. You should have addressed the issue of a nuisance or noise ordinance. It's bigger than this one issue. It needs to be addressed anyhow. In regards to Fort Miller, the proposed changes allow for an area variance to be granted. And I've seen this board grant area variances all the time. Half the distance to the sidelines, things like that, without much consideration. The same thing could be done with the proposal the way I read the proposal now. There was a comment in what I read that said that this goes along with what the APA had approved. What the APA approved was that this was subject to a special use permit. Now you're talking about an allowed use. Now, all these things might not, these words, special use, allowed use, area variance, use variance, they might mean a whole lot more to Mr. Hafner than they do to the rest of us. But this is exactly the kinds of things that get you into the trouble. And, they have a good lawyer there. And if I were you, I would ask the representative of Fort Miller one question, and that is, would you intend to ever ask for a variance from the 1,000-foot buffer? And if they say, no, we'll never ask for relief from that, then perhaps, then that's okay. I doubt whether you'll ever get them to agree to that. And if they won't say that, I think you will then understand that this is a ruse. Simple thing for you to do. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
George Winters, 4 John Clendon Road. The roundabout, they mowed the grass, but they didn't cut the brush back. Why don't they go in there and cut all the underbrush right back to the pines and then plant grass there so that they never have to worry about that again. What they do, they come up and cut 2 twigs out of there, and that's supposed to satisfy somebody. But that is dangerous there. Far lane pulls right out there. They do. And then I just wanted to speak on Log Day up in Lake George. That's the second year that they've done something. But I've been to this board before the little girl got killed. And what they done, they think they're doing a great job now. But that's the job they should have done 15 years ago. They knew that problem was there. And they went up there. I don't know if you people have ever seen pictures that come out of that Log Day, but they're not good. And that's been going on for a long time. And everybody, all the cops and stuff, they like to get on that duty because they get a pretty good show up there. And that's been going on for a long time. And the reason I bring that up is because the fireworks, they had the tubes that they shoot the fireworks out on now. The tubes that they put the fireworks in, there was a field with half the field with them tubes on it. And then, you call it Sheriff Patrol. It is the 4th of July, And they went on longer than Glens Falls up in our area. You must have seen them.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then they don't do nothing. What we're going to have to do is wait until somebody gets killed, and then somebody gets killed or blows an arm off or something. Then the sheriff's going to say, oh, yeah, we're going to take care of that. And so then after a guy loses his arm, the sheriff's going to take care of it. Now is the time to take care of it before somebody does get an arm blew off or hand. I brought this up a couple times, and you're a good thing. And then down in the West End, people shoot them off down there, and they don't think nothing of it. It's not 4th of July. It's any time they want to shoot them off. It's about time that maybe the town of Queensbury takes control and asks the sheriff to do something about it. If you call them up, it's the 4th of July. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yeah, this time.
Good evening. Tom Ross, I'm Queensbury. A couple of things to just mention to you. What's the status of the traffic report on Route 9?
You mean the study that's being done?
The study, yes.
We're in the middle of it. And,
okay. Okay. Now, you have said in prior meetings it comes down to Sweet Road. Does it include Sweet Road? Okay.
Well, it includes Route 9 to Sweet Road.
Right, not Sweet Road itself.
It doesn't include directly Sweet Road.
Well, I've spoken very softly with Mr. Medevere, and I mentioned it to you, and I know you're waiting for an email from me, that somebody needs to address Sweet Road. It is probably one of the highest trafficked or traveled road in the town of Queensbury. I live on the corner of Sweet Road and Country Club Road, the White House up on the hill. I sat out there for 2 days. I sat out there on a Tuesday and I sat out there on a Saturday, and I did this a couple of years ago. On Tuesday, there were 214 cars traveling that road.
from 8 in the morning till 6 at night. There were in that number 47 trucks on a road that is 90% residential and 10% commercial. I sat out there on a Saturday where there were no events, at least that I knew of, in and around Sweet Road. And on Saturday, there were 314 automobiles and 61 trucks in a residential neighborhood. The speed limit is too high. I believe there was a letter to the editor about that, not from me. It's a dangerous road. It encompasses a major crossing of the bike path for which there is no designation as a bike path. There are some lines on the road as you get to the bike path. Right now, if you come down Sweet Road from the bakery up on the end and try to go right, there you cannot see what traffic is coming. The underbrush has grown this year, at least for the 3 years I've lived there, way too high. Down the road just a piece, there's a turn that cuts over to Glenwood, and National Grid put up 2 telephone poles. Sit there and try to see to the left if any traffic is coming. You can't unless you edge out onto it. This whole area down there is a dangerous area. The bike path, as I've mentioned to both of you, and I'm not complaining, we sit out in our yard every day. I'm retired now, and the screeching of cars and bikes. I was out there trimming the other day, and there was a family of four bikes, 2 adults, 2 children, who obviously did not stop as they came from like Lake George to the end down on Country Club Road there. I would say they came within 3 feet of getting killed. When you turn from Country Club on to Sweet Road, there's a sign that says speed limit 35. I will tell you, the cars turning from there, by the time they hit the bike path, they're going 45. It's too high a speed limit, and you really need to address that in whatever manner you do that. Okay, I had one more thing I just wanted to mention about the noise ordinance, nuisance ordinance. I don't care what it is, we badly need it. Sit out in your yard at night and listen if you live anywhere near these commercial developments. Thank you very much.
Anybody else like to speak? Well, yes, sir.
My name is Andrew Holding, 48 Dream Lake Road, and my wife is a hard act to follow. Fort Miller has done Queensbury a huge injustice by spending 4 years misleading the Queensbury Town Board. And I want to apologize to the new members because they haven't been a process of this for the whole 4 years. Only Mr. Stroh and Mr. Medevere have been all through the sessions of incomplete, inaccurate, and misleading statements and documents Fort Miller has fed to the board over the years in an effort to coerce the town board to change the Queensbury zoning laws. In 2014, RR mining was added as an allowed use in RR by Local Law 2, 2014. And Supervisor Stroh waved a letter above his head and said, quote, "I do have the letter from Fort Miller as promised by this board. It is from Fort Miller and it says, after listening to the meeting dialogue, we wish to inform the town board that we will construct a new road to provide ingress and egress to our operations via New York State Route 149. This road will eliminate the use of Dream Lake Road to access our operations as we discussed in our workshop session." Months after the law was changed, Fort Miller was in front of the planning board. with a plan to go to Ridge Road instead. And Mr. Marcel was saying something to the effect of, well, Dream Lake Road is a public road. I can't tell people not to use it. They misled the board to get the changes they wanted in 214, and they've been doing it ever since. They've even so confused Supervisor Stroh that he used the word buffer in his explanation of the law, and John, buffer does not appear in that law. There have been maps with inaccurate dimensions, elevations depicted from vertical and horizontal scales that are different, all kinds of misleading information from Fort Miller. Even at their last workshop, when some of the new members had the common sense to say, well, in addition to the Kabricki rezoning, is there anything else in this proposal? The president and attorney for Fort Miller both answered with something like, oh, we're just going to clean it up a little of the other language. An ingenuous, minimizing reply when they knew full well the 1,000-foot definition of separation was being changed. No one expects every member of the board to know every detail of all the matters they deal with, but Fort Miller is misleading the board again, and John Stroh refuses to give the neighbors who can clarify some of these misleading statements and documents to the board the time to appear at a workshop. We've asked for it in writing. Let us appear the way Fort Miller does and give you a workshop to show you the facts without litigious or press involved. Simple request. No one looked, oh yes, a case in point. An elevation was brought to a meeting. John and Tony obviously will remember this. A very nice elevation depicting a hill and a house, and the representatives of Fort Miller spent a long time saying, we'll see how well the people on Ridge Road are protected. And the hill is high and the house is low and everything, and it was good. What no one looked at was the note that said property line 279.1316, which is actually the property line of Mr. Ed Lockhart, who spoke tonight, which is completely on the other side of the southwest corner of the pit. So that was another thing being misrepresented.
Can you wrap it up, please?
Simply renoticing this change to another date, unless the current board makes it further efforts to understand the facts and the issues, including setting up a workshop where neighbors have more than 3 or 4 minutes to produce the facts, will produce no forward movement. Move to understand it. Move to hear the facts.
You've exceeded the time,
Okay.
even more so, and you will have an opportunity at the public hearing to speak your piece.
Okay, and I hope you'll move this forward by listening to your constituents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the board? Yes, sir.
Hi, Kip Grant, E1195 Ridge Road. And there's not much I can add. My wife Jean and I are in the same vein, as we're talking about gravel pits. We are concerned about the reduction of the separation to become, it's almost as if now a magic wand will be waved. It's a buffer, and you can massage it any way you like to get down to a smaller separation. I saw this newspaper article a few days ago, and I wonder how many people who just glanced at it and didn't really read it fully think that this is just about getting trucks off Dream Lake Road, because there is so much more to it. I think, too, that some property owners who don't feel that this is a big deal might feel differently when it comes time to sell their property. And they might be selling it for less than they think. And maybe nobody's going to be interested in buying the property if this is going on so close to their backyards. It's easy for the little guys to feel intimidated by a big outfit like Fort Miller. But I know you want to represent your constituents. And I'm confident you will, and I hope that we get a chance to chew the fat. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the board? Town topics. Yes,
ma'am. Hello, my name is Charlotte Holding, and I live at 48 Dream Lake Road. I've lived there since I was 3, and I don't quite understand everything that's happening here, but I do understand that walking home from school, I was sometimes afraid because trucks would be coming down, and I've actually almost gotten hit once. And I'd like to keep that from happening to people on Ridge Road, especially with small children. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the board? All right, seeing none, 1,000-foot buffer versus 1,000-foot setback, and we haven't changed that yet. We're listening to you, and we'll have a public hearing on that on the 20th. But people are speaking as if we changed it. We did. That may or may not happen. That's up to this board. 3 members can decide yay or nay. Now, the applicant has asked us to consider that, and that's what we are considering. So, put this all into the mix. The noise issue. Yeah, I like the idea of a nuisance law, but if and when this ever comes back around to the planning board, they can set noise requirements. I'm talking about the pellet manufacturing plant being proposed on Corinth Road. They can establish certain decibel levels at certain feet, at certain conditions from the facility at certain times, such as we've done with the Great Escape. And they can make the applicant pay for those professional services and provide that information to the town. And if they exceed certain levels, if determined by the planning board to be excessive, then they'd have to come back to the planning board for their operations to persist. So the planning board has those kind of powers. I just want you to be aware of that. And the planning board is made up of 7 regulars and 2 alternates, very reasonable people, very skilled in community planning, and they do listen to you. You may not always agree with them, but they are the people with the skill set and the powers to try and determine whether the zone change is appropriate or not, or does it need modification, things like that. So I do have faith in our planning board. Now, as far as the roundabout goes, Dave just heard you. So Dave will be coming out on Far Lane to take a look at that brush, and if it possesses a public safety issue, and if it's on our right of way, we can go and cut it. And Dave, I don't know, even if it's not on our right of way, if it's posing a safety issue, can we still cut it?
Yes.
So, all right, so George, Dave will go over and take a look at that. I saw him listening to you.
Thank you very much.
The fireworks issue, yeah, if I had to do it over, George, on the county, I would have voted no. I mean, at the time, it was sold to us as sparklers, and little poppets. Fine, but it's turned out to be so much worse than that. So I agree with George. I mean, people have taken liberties with the fireworks that far exceeded what the law says you're allowed to do. And I think we need to do something about it, so I agree with you on that. Sweet Road. Tom, Jane Arnold lives on Sweet Road.
Pardon me?
Jane Arnold?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, she too, along with other residents, have been very unhappy with what's happened to Sweet Road. It's become the cut-through. It's become the way to avoid Quaker Road and Aviation and the 40,000 cars that go through that intersection on a busy day. Yes. But we're listening. It's, you know, the list of roads where people are unhappy, some more justified than others, but all of them we listen to. Sweet Road's one of those that really needs our attention. There's people on Burnt Hills Road, Weeks Road. I mean, the list can go on. But, you know, we're kind of at odds with what to do. So we have a workshop a week from tonight in the supervisor's conference room at 7 p.m. It's open to the public as well. But the workshops are discussion things and learning and kind of informal situations, which for discussion items works better than something formal like this. We have a traffic calming expert coming in. We have a representative from Chazen coming to talk about what can we do. And I talked to Dave Duell about this, superintendent of highway here. He's coming to the meeting. So we're gonna, you know, do some brainstorming. Sweet Road is certainly on the list of roads that we need to do something with. What can we do? All right, we're gonna investigate some of that stuff a week from tonight.
One thing I might add in considering that is if the development across the road goes in, that's gonna be another load of traffic. I'm kind of excited.
Yeah, it will be. So, and we can't prohibit people from developing the property in ways that are legal.
No.
But we try and address these other collateral issues, if you will, as they come up. And Sweet Road's one that really needs our attention. I agree with you 100%. We need to do more with the bicycle crossing there. You're right about everything. So, and I know the Holding family is here and they're very concerned about Fort Miller. And, you know, there's a lot of people that think it's a good idea that the truck traffic exit out onto Ridge Road as opposed to using Dream Lake Road, which is, I assume your daughter pointed out. It's dangerous for those big trucks on Dream Lake Road. So we want to remedy that situation. We thought that accessing Ridge Road might be one of the ways of helping to remedy your situation on Dream Lake Road. Well, we can have that discussion more so on the 20th. And Kip had the same concerns. I don't know if I addressed all your concerns, but anyway, those are some of my thoughts. Any thoughts on some of the things that were stated tonight that you want to share at this point in time?
I'm curious as to why we couldn't have a workshop on this from the other side, besides Fort Miller, but what they're asking for. Is there a history here that I'm unaware of?
Yeah. Well, we're going to have a public hearing on it, so they're going to have a right.
Public hearing is slightly different than a workshop, though. A workshop is a to and fro and a discussion, and public hearing is a little bit more formal and a little bit different. So I'm just wondering why it's not a possibility to have a workshop.
Well, you got the public hearing on the 20th.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Is that the end of story then?
We can have a workshop, but we have scheduled a public hearing on the 20th, and the workshop next Monday is pretty booked.
So why does it have to be on the 20th then? Sorry, I'm not understanding.
You just said a resolution setting it for the 20th.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
We did do that.
We don't have to make any.
We don't have to take any action at the public
So
hearing.
we have the public hearing, and then if we decided we still needed a
We can
public
carry.
hearing,
We don't have to vote on it that night.
but you would just set a public
Okay.
hearing.
All right.
All right. Anything else before we go to town board discussions? Anything else on what was said? Okay. Town board discussions. Tony?
Don't have much. There's been some discussion again about Airbnbs in town and problems that residents are having around town with them, so we need to have that conversation again and do something about it. Probably at the same conversation we should have about the nuisance ordinance. So they are one and the same, according to some folks. So we need to figure this out.
Yeah, so we have, you know, the formation of a law on short-term rentals. And on the county level, they'd like to get those short-term rentals identified so that they can pay the same kind of tax that everyone else who rents out their place, hotels, motels, have to pay the bed tax and so forth. Our concern more, from what we've heard from the public, is the lack of parking, the parking on the lawns, parking on the neighbors' lawns, the noise, the all-night parties. You got a 2-bedroom house and it seems like you got 3 families living in it. I mean, you know, overwhelming possibly the septic system and the quality of life of the adjacent neighbors. And we all get that. So Lake George has done the hard work for adopting a short-term rental code. And we've been watching that and we've shared that with us. And we've talked about it at workshops. And so, you know, I haven't heard much feedback from anybody on that. So, I mean, it's out there.
And the town of Warrensburg is working on one right now, but we're working with them on.
So
it might be going forward in the fall.
What, the nuisance?
Short-term rentals.
And you and I went to the workshop, the Association of Towns, and this is
Jackie
all over.
did.
Jackie did, yes. And it's all over New York State. They're having this issue. At least that's what I learned from the Association of Towns, which dealt with the 935 or whatever they are towns in New York.
Many of our towns, same issue.
Yeah, same issue. Anything else, Tommy?
No, thank you.
Okay. Catherine?
Just a brief update on the Clean Energy Committee, which if people aren't aware, there is a Clean Energy Committee that's made up of citizens and a couple of town board members. And at the moment, we're doing a solarization campaign to educate people on using our natural resource, the sun, and locally, and it's called the Southern Adirondack for Solar. In each town, it's working with NYSERDA, and each town is to get 10 contracts which would satisfy the NYSERDA Clean Energy Community Solarized campaign. We have now 21 contracts, 13 of which are Queensbury. So we've met our goal. The other towns are still working on it. We got a grant from NYSERDA, which was to help us with the campaign of $5,000. And the 2 solar companies that were chosen are Apex and Solar Liberty. And with them, we've been going around giving sort of informational meetings. And we've done one we started here in the Activity Center with a launch. We've done one at the Country Club on Gurney Lane, Haviland Cove, the Hub at Brant Lake, and which have all created leads and activity. We sent out 5,000 or more postcards. We have tables at Take a Bite in Glens Falls on Wednesday and a farmer's market both at Glens Falls and Bolton Landing. We also have a sandwich board. It's very nice. And we tout that around with us to all the events in like City Park and such. So in the future, there's going to be a gathering at Queensbury Hotel. That'll be in September. And then the vendors who have been very active with us want to have further informational gatherings in the other towns that are working with us on this program, which are Warrensburg, Bolton, Hague, and Chester. We'll be meeting this Wednesday to firm up details for all of that. If you're interested in even just getting an assessment, it's free to find out if solar would be good for you, or or it's something that you would like to do, you can go on to the Southern address. It's called Southern ADK solar.org. There's an assessment form, or you can contact Apex and Solar Liberty directly and just say that you heard about it from us. And you can go on to Look TV. It's called what is it? LookTVOnline.com and see an interview with Kathy Bizzoni, who had on the Solarize campaign, who is the chair of our committee. That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sandwich boards?
Sandwich board. No, you don't wear it, you place it. No, nobody's wearing it. You just place it on the
You
wall.
used to in the old days.
You did. One did. One could.
Get away and cheat on the sign ordinance.
Could do.
George?
I actually had a question for you. Do we have any updates on the traffic signal that's going to go in by the Queensbury High School?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I got an email tonight, just before the meeting, where he's got the plans drawn up. So it appears, and Dave, I'm going to forward that to you, so you and I will take a look at it. And I think they're ready to go out to bid. So the next process, if they're acceptable to Dave, and then we'll go out to bid. They're supposed to be construction documents ready to go out to bid. So, and if we find that that's the case, then we now go out to bid, and then the bidders will put in their offers, and we got to look for polls.
Can I ask Superintendent Dool to come to the mic? I have a question for him too.
Can you come to the mic, Dave?
So I noticed on aviation, there was some painting of turn signals and that on aviation. I guess they were freshening up the traffic flow. And this is a question for both of you. So my concern is that without the light being in place when school starts, and to look at the construction there, I can't believe it's going to be done in a month, but I guess it's going to be done in a month. Is traffic going to be more of a problem with the new driveway in place and no signalized intersection? So people are going to be able to make the left-hand turn from aviation into this new driveway, correct?
Yes, correct. Yes, the school got to jump on the gun, what they plan to do. They told us 2 years from now.
Right.
They told us a few months ago they plan on doing it now. So that has put us into a situation where we had to finish drawing the plans up. We had the conceptual done.
Right.
But now we have to do the fine details. The fine details are done. Now we go out to bid. Getting the equipment and the materials has proven to be a problem, as indicated by the new light that we're trying to put in here at Bay Road.
That I understand.
I'm just in the meantime,
I'm trying to think, is there something we could do, thinking ahead that we've got a month, that we can control that, whatever this new intersection is going to be, without the signal being?
The superintendent of schools, Doug Huntley, said that the school is willing to do whatever we feel is necessary to make this thing work until we get the signal set up. So we'll work with the school.
Yep.
I mean, will it take hiring somebody to operate traffic during the AM and PM peaks?
Or maybe
I
just,
don't know. We need to sit down.
use that driveway for egress, but not use it for an entrance until that signal is in place.
Those kind of remedies might be things we need to sit down and talk about that.
Yeah.
So,
Again, before school starts.
yeah, so.
Yeah, exactly. The traffic flow up there is going to be substantially different. It's going to be changed with that entrance being exactly in line with Cottage Hill Road.
Correct.
As well as they're going to open the other entrance, the west entrance, to two-way traffic there. So hopefully that alleviates some of that at Cottage Hill.
So the traffic experts say that this is going to be the remedy for the next 20 years. It's going to be good. It's going to fix the problems we've seen there. So slowly, we try and work at these problems as we get to them and do what we can. All right, anything else for Dave?
That's it.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. John?
Keeping on the topic of schools and education, on Thursday, October 18th, the local workforce leaders are collaborating to host Career Jam, a one-day hands-on career exploration event for 8th and 9th grade students from local school districts. The event is designed to engage students and to encourage them to look at careers that are relevant to where we live. If any local business is interested in participating, I would encourage them to either contact myself or BOCES or the local job link. The same goes for any of the local school districts. I do know that Queensbury 8th graders will be attending, and any of the other wishy-wee BOCES districts are invited to attend as well. And it's being held at the Dome right here in Queensbury. So I think it'll be a great event for our youth and our business community to learn about the talents of our youth, and it'll also be an opportunity for our youth to see what's available to them for future careers here. And that's all I have.
Okay, good.
In 3 weeks.
Before school starts?
No, it's been 3 weeks since we've had a meeting.
Oh, jeez.
We're very scared.
Yes, we're very scared.
Should I
Starting to
get
sweat
that?
a little bit.
No, I just wanted to tell you, if you have the opportunity, Suez has started to prep the Gurney Lane metal water tank, not the concrete, but the metal water tank, for sandblasting, and they're going to finish inside and outside. And then when they get done with that, they're going to go over on Luzerne Road and get that one. So if you get an opportunity to see how you can see the professionalism involved here. Okay, so Tuesday following the last town board meeting, at an EDC meeting, board of directors, met with some of the Rockhurst people. Bob Hafner was there as well to talk about what do we do next. And so the residents of Rockhurst, who ultimately would like to take those 52 properties and develop a community septic system. As you know, Rockhurst is very narrow, very crowded. You would not allow something like that today. Each one of them has their own septic systems. We know that septic leakage into the lake is one of the major causes of the lake's pollution, especially in the southern basin. So one solution to mitigate that would be a community septic system. This is something, it's a grassroots thing that came from a couple of guys, Steve Seaboyer and Tom Sargent, who are Rockhurst residents. And they worked with their fellow people, but they're putting together a petition to assure this board there is enough support among the Rockhurst people to go ahead and develop this community system. It'll be one of the first in the kind, certainly in the Lake George region. I think it will set a model for other places that are clustered densely like this and probably contributing to the lake's pollution levels. So I applaud Steve Seaboyer and Tom Sargent for their efforts, and the people of Rockhurst, and that appears to be a popular solution. And you know, New York's looking at this, you know, the Lake George Association, the Fund for Lake George, and they're all working to, they're all advocating for this and willing to work with us on this. This is a unique experience, so we're working with them. All right, on Wednesday, July 18th, had a SALT meeting. Again, one of Lake George's problems is that in the last 30 years, salt levels have gone up in Lake George 300% over the base level. Now, the lake does have an ability to clean itself, but at what level will it become irreversible? We need to start doing something about reducing our salt contribution to that body of water. and probably to Glen Lake and Sunnyside and elsewhere. They too don't need the extra nutrient levels that salt contributes. We also met with Queensbury Central representatives to discuss the firehouse number 2 siren. George was with me, with Joel and Adam. No simple solution to that, but we're still working on it. July 19th, Thursday, I gave a presentation on our Route 9, which back in the old days they called the Military Road, and I told about that experience in the French and Indian War and Queensbury's contribution. I also met with Mark Sargent and Eric Gilbert to discuss the Route 9 corridor issues. We're trying to talk with the stakeholders, so we're talking to the primary owners up there and the outlets. And Eric Gilbert is the president of the Six Flags Great Escape. So he was very important. Of course, he identified, and I get a lot of emails of people that disagree, and they don't think Round Pond coming into Route 9 is an issue. Well, Eric Gilbert and some other people see that as an issue, and we could chip in to do something about it. But there were other issues too identified that all of us are familiar with. You know, the traffic flow problems with the $1 Million Mile and so forth. Then I went to a public meeting over at SUNY Adirondack in their Northeast conference room with New York State Department of Health, where we discussed the cancer rates in Warren County. They were inputting information, they were setting up parameters, and they're going to try and finish up their study before the end of the year. That's pretty aggressive. Let's see what they do. There was a lot of people that were angry at that meeting. People who had cancer or people whose relatives have cancer. And a lot of blaming and a lot of finger pointing. I understand. I hope they find out some of the causes and we can work on remedying that. There's no reason why Warren County should be the #1 county in New York State. On Friday, July 20th, I went to a county board of supervisors meeting. I also met with Kathy Bozzoni to talk about improving property transfer law PowerPoint. On July 23rd, Monday, Economic Growth and Development Committee. On Tuesday, July 24th, I had a Legislative and Rules Committee where we discussed Ms. Bramer's control of the single-use plastic bags. I came back here, I met with town clerk officials, Caroline, Kim, and Colleen, to discuss laserfish, archiving, records keeping, and the issues. See, Queensbury, and this was told to us by folks at Store Tech, we're way ahead of other communities in terms of digitalizing our information, archiving the information. We're setting up a system that will make it easier for people who want to foil information from the town to go on our website and get that information without going through the paperwork and everything else. They can get it instantaneously. We're trying to move in that direction. And one of the things that we passed tonight was we're digitalizing a lot of the documents that are sitting down in the basement here to make them more accessible for you and to help preserve them for the future. And as you know, we're also transferring all our data and information and everything else out to a cloud where there will be no one place, no one fire, no one snowstorm or rainstorm or something else that's going to happen that's going to wipe out this information. It'll be in several locations in the world. And what else can you do? That's about as safe as you can get. We also met with Burnt Ridge area residents. Jennifer Switzer was there at that meeting to discuss their traffic issues and concerns. On July 25th, Wednesday, we went to a regional sewer committee meeting at the Glens Falls wastewater treatment plant to discuss regional wastewater treatment, the problems and solutions. I also met with Larry Poutrowitz to discuss potential solutions to our labor issues and the New York State Department of Labor settlement. So I'm going to be sending that settlement proposal out to you in the near future. I think I talked to a couple of you about it. And then I've been working on the Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board to upgrading their bylaws and their policies. July 26th, Thursday, I had a SUNY Adirondack Board of Trustees workshop. And then I had some residents come in and talk about the Halfway Brook Trail license agreement and the issues involved there. And on July 27th, Friday, Catherine and I surveyed the 3 Freiberger lots for Open Space Institute. And then went to Leon Steves, who's done a lot of work for the town, and he's head of the Queensbury Land Conservancy. His wife of, I think, 65 years, passed away. So we'll miss her, and he will miss her even more. On July 31st, Tuesday, I again met with Kathy Bozzoni and Dave Patton, where we reviewed and amended the supplementary documents that I all sent out to you and shared with you. They're cut version. If you compare them to before, they're a lot shorter. I didn't hear any feedback from anybody, but I assume they're better. I met with Caroline, Alan Van Tassel, Bob Hafner to discuss archiving and records keeping again on August 1st, Wednesday. Then I went to the lunch with your legislators hosted by the Adirondack Regional Chamber. On August 2nd, Thursday, I took a call from Mrs. Pisbelow, and she has some issues that she would like the town board to help her with. Some of them we might be able to, I don't know, but we're going to meet on that. On August 3rd, Friday, I attended the Queensbury Senior Citizens Golden Seniors Recognition Luncheon. And there were 2 attendees who were at this 90-plus recognition who were over 100, and one who was almost 100. And so I gave a speech at that. With age comes wisdom. That adage was the theme of my speech. And then we reviewed the proposed amendments to the proposed U.S. security contract, which, you know, Jennifer and all of us were not comfortable with until we get the final version of that solidified. So we pulled that resolution. And I met with another resident of Lake Sunnyside, and she's discussing noise issues. The guy next to her was constantly working on his place and has saws going and so forth. You know, if you're working on your house, I don't know if you have right to limit that. Maybe limit the times that they're working on it, but I don't know. And then I went to the Lake George Land Conservancy Gala. It was the 30th anniversary Land and Water Conservation celebrating. They celebrated 3 decades of protecting the land that protects the lake. And that was a great event. And then today, I went to the Hyde Museum luncheon to show my support for that great organization. And then we had another meeting, and George was at this meeting. We met with the 5 fire companies, representatives of the 5 fire companies, and Julie Butler from Warren County, she's in charge of purchasing. And we're trying to see if there are items that we could, or the county could, go out and bid on that might save the 5 fire companies some money. That's all the good stuff. And it's good for the county that they're willing to help out. So we discussed some ideas. Bob was there. Maybe some good things will come out of that discussion tonight. And that was before this meeting. So, and then we're at this meeting. All right, well, that brings you up to date. And that's it for me. Anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, hearing none, I want to thank Look TV and Joe Barlow and our sponsors, especially Stored Tech. And thank you, Rose and Bob and Town Board and the public for coming. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you, Glenn, for doing that wonderful masterpiece. I think it is going to be a masterpiece, the Rush Pond Park. So, all right. Motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilwoman Switzer, seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. Does that mean anything, the 2 ladies are saying that? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Surprise.
Public Affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcomed. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.